Hello! Welcome to Ask Amy and Rosie. This is Amy. I'm Rosie. And we're going to answer your handpan questions monthly.
We're looking forward to looking through the Handpan Village and seeing what kind of questions come up. And this is our first ever pilot episode, so we've gone into the backlog a little bit. But in the future, you can ask us directly. Shall we have a look at question 1?
Yeah.
Let's do it. So, Michael asks, I find it difficult to regulate the percussion force on the tone fields of one hand independently to the other. So if I hit hard, the other hand also hits hard, even though it should produce a soft tone. Is there perhaps an exercise to learn this behaviour better?
It's a good question. It's a big problem, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's one that everybody faces in the beginning, for sure.
Yeah.
For me, my favourite way to practice that is to take a groove, a very, very simple doom cat pattern, and then just practice scales at the same time, which does require some hand independence first as well, and that's the first thing that you need to learn before this even becomes a problem anyway, to be fair. So what that would look like is... taking a basic rhythm like this. And when you feel really comfortable with that, you can practice with the other hand a simple one-handed scales exercise. I like to practice this one time with every finger, but that doesn't matter. For now, we'll just focus on this. So then, once you've got both of those elements, then you can practice this. So now I'm having to practice striking firmly for that tack sound with one hand and striking softly for that nice warm sound with the other hand. And yes, you will get a few clangers in the beginning, but that's the point, right? That's the point of the practice. Take it really, really, really slow and gentle, and you can even just practice those individual movements completely independently and then put it together and just keep rolling with it until you find the sound that you like. Anything to add?
Yeah, I think I'd take an even simpler exercise, to be fair, which is, you basically just said it, but I was thinking this before you said it. But it's the idea of having like your hands on, you know, like a DJ, like they've got sliders. You want to be able to slide the volume of them up and down. So supposing we have, let's say we have a tack and a note. Firstly, practicing them individually. Note, tack, note, tack. I'd say both of my hands are kind of in the middle of the volume. Now I'm going to really explore with playing them both as quietly as I can. And explore playing both of them as loud as I can. And as loud as I can on a handpan is not as hard as I can possibly hit it, but like a comfortable, louder dynamic. Once I've got those feeling quite comfortable, and even that is a stage to really get precise, then starting to think about varying them. I'm going to play all of my notes loud and all of my tacks very quietly. Or I could swap it over, all of my notes quietly and all of my tacks loud. These kinds of exercises can be applied all around the handpan to all different types of strokes. Slaps, bass, ding. But what's really important is having a thought of how loud you want that sound to come out before you play it. So you can practice playing quiet and loud with either of your hands, swapping volumes as you go through. It doesn't sound like a very interesting practice to anyone that's near you, but your brain is working super hard, even though it just sounds like you're just sitting and playing this for 5 minutes. But it will be like doing great things inside your brain, I promise.
That's a good place to start. So you start with that and then put the two things together and then take it up a notch, which is where Michael was trying to get to, I suppose, in then putting it into something that is a pattern, I guess.
But it is still a problem. Sometimes I do it all the time.
Daily.
If you're thinking about attack and you're having to bounce, it's the same with like a mute and an open stroke, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the main practice is just to do it more, but be really like honest with yourself. If you didn't get the sound that you were expecting, just do it again because you didn't master it, even if you got the rhythm right.
Yeah.
If you're thinking about that sound quality, you've got to be honest. What did you want it to sound like? Something to share with the group.
I'm teaching in half an hour. All right.
Great question. Thanks, Michael.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Not that you knew we were going to answer your question, but...
Surprise!
Okay, so Cyrus asks, is a 7-note handpan good enough for a beginner?
Great question. Yes.
Yeah.
The answer is yeah. I mean, you having a handpan is great.
Yep. Did you start on a 7 notes?
Yeah. I started on 7.
I started on 8.
You know, we play these instruments that have these notes underneath, and you may have seen notes that, you know, these extra ones on the top, and they're all great. They're like extensions, they give you extra options. But most people, especially people that started playing, you know, 10 or 15 years ago, they started with 7 notes. And all of this underneath notes, it's only been the past, I don't know, 5 years. It's really like been a thing. Like the music is in the handpan, you know, you can get it out. People play amazing pieces of music just using a ding. So it's not about how many notes you have, but it's about what you do with them.
And probably, even if you've got an 8th note on your instrument, it's probably just a repetition anyway of a note that's already on there somewhere else. I think the only thing that you might stumble into if you have a 7-note instrument is when you're following tutorials. They're usually on 8-note instruments. I get a lot of questions about this all the time with regards to, you know, how do I play the same melody that you're playing if I've only got 7 notes rather than 8? And in that instance, it's just a matter of, if somebody plays the highest note, the 8th note, play your highest note again. Or choose another note that you like the sound of towards the top of the instrument. Everything else will be exactly replicable, if that's a word. Everything else remains the same. It's just when you get to the top, you might have to just make some creative decisions, which is fun in itself, I think.
But that being said, if you are in a position that you have 2 options of 7 notes or 8 notes, and they both are the same quality handpan, they're both within your price range, they're both made by a maker that you like, then I would suggest leaning towards getting the 8 note if that is possible. Like, I wouldn't let it stop you from getting a handpan if it's a good quality handpan, but I would say sometimes having that extra note can be even more fun, basically.
Yeah, totally, I'm with you on that. Nice. Alright, so we've got a couple of questions I think that were fairly similar. We've got this one from Bastian, who's stuck in a pattern or groove. I've been learning for around 9 months, getting to the end of David's beginner's course. The difficulty I'm facing is when I want to start to improvise more freely, I'm always stuck in a loop of the same rhythms, and although I have an okay knowledge of rhythms and a few other patterns in my head, I simply can't assemble them. I have to stop and start again with a new one. I'd say it's more than just a transition problem. So my mind always needs to reset before starting something new.
That's a good specific question. I can answer that specific question especially, right? So supposing you're in a groove, or any pattern or anything, whatever it is, I can't think of any grooves.
Dooms, doom, cat, dooms, doom, cat.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Suppose I have this going, and I know I want to get to whatever, something very different. What I need to do is find that common pulse, find that common beat. So if I do it again, and maybe Amy, you can just like bop your head to it, that's going to be that thing that I'm trying to think inside of me. Here it is. Keeps that pulse going and I try and play at a different speed, you'll see how it doesn't work. I don't even know if I can do it. Here it is. Good. I'm changing. You see those two different sections, they don't feel connected at all. And that's because they don't have the same common pulse, right? They don't have that same sense of like heartbeat through them. So when you're moving between two sections at first, I would just think about that pulse, right? Doof, doof. I play my first section. And then I give myself a breather. Section 2. Find a pulse. Section 1. Like, it still sounds cool, and especially when you're working by yourself, eventually you might get rid of that little gap and be able to transition through them. But even for now, while you're practicing, while you're thinking, give yourself some thinking time, but keep at the same speed so that whatever new rhythm you do, it like slots in with the one before.
I like that as well here, even though you're giving yourself that reset time that Bastien needed as well, and that thinking time, you're still doing something active as well. You're not just considering and thinking of that pulse. You're playing that pulse as well, which keeps you in that loop and keeps you going.
Yeah.
And you can get away with that if you're playing in front of someone. It sounds like part of it as well.
It's the face.
Just bring it back to the pulse, baby. Another thing that I find myself doing as well, and is good for those examples, is if I'm playing... Swapsies. If I'm playing that and I know that I need to swap to that other pattern, and I already know that pattern, then in my head or out loud, while I'm here, I can go beyond just thinking of the pulse of it, but I can sing da na 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 da na na na. Now I know how those two things relate to each other because I can play them both at the same time, one with my voice, one with my hands, right? So then when I'm ready, I've already kind of done it, I've already internalized it, and then it's ready to come out.
That's such a good tip. Sing it.
Sing it.
If you've got two ideas, sing them on top of each other. Like, to go back to that first exercise you suggested, like the counting. If what Amy played felt a bit like, whoa, I can't do that yet, if Amy plays that, we can sing. Then maybe bring the hand in.
If you can sing it, you can play it.
Yeah, because doing two different things with our hands at the same time is a little bit challenging, but we're really used to doing one thing with our hands and another with our voice. Like, think about having a chat when you're doing the washing up. You're not really thinking about the washing up. You're not, you're thinking about the conversation, but you're able to do those two things much easier than maybe doing two things with your hands. So when I'm trying to work out how two things slot together, I will always sing one of them before I try and play it, because if it doesn't make sense in my brain, then these have no chance.
And it's not about having a good voice as well. Like whenever I bring this up, people always go, "But I can't sing." That's not what you're trying to do. You're not trying to sing well. It's just a matter of internalizing that music and those notes. Try and give yourself that freedom a little bit to let yourself sing out loud. It's very, very useful.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of goes into the next question as well. I think we've probably answered the next question within that, how to improvise or create your own compositions. Okay, so this goes kind of next level. So Matthias is quite good at playing various compositions in different courses. However, I find it incredibly difficult to improvise or even create my own compositions. I have the feeling that I do not have enough creativity. Does anyone have a good tip?
You do. Yeah, I mean, my tip for improvising and thinking of things on the spot is to give yourself rules. Like, if I say to you right now, say a word.
Pineapple.
Yeah, it's like panic. But if I say to you, choose a colour.
Oh, red.
You can think of that because I've already given you some parameters. Or if I say, like, heads or tails.
Tails.
You can answer that so much more quickly because there's already some rules in place. You know the way that someone says, "What's your favourite song?" And you're like, "I've never heard a song in my life."
No idea.
Because it's just so broad that your brain is like blah, 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 blah. So in terms of having creativity, I would choose to like start with some pattern. You mentioned studying a few of the courses already. So take a pattern that you liked and make a small tweak to it. Instead of trying to recreate and change a whole thing, what if instead of playing this note, I play that note? Or what if instead of these two, I play those two? And in that way, you start to find some shapes that really make sense. And I will add a whole new thought, which is slotting harmony on top of grooves. Like, much of my creativity comes from harmony, because the groove maybe wants to stay the same for the whole piece. That's like the scaffolding that the piece is existing. But if I play the same groove, what do we do?
Yeah, stick to it.
This, then I can just choose some chords. Is what starts to make the music for me, and then I start to think, like, because I've set myself that parameter of dum dum cat, I don't have to think about what rhythm I'm going to do. Once I've chosen some chords I like, I don't have to be picking those new chords all the time. And then I'm building maybe a melody on top of it, because I've given myself parameters and rules, and I'm not allowed to change them until you really want to break the rules, and then you can change them up.
I think and to take it even a step back from that a little bit, you could even, you've got so many resources here on Master the Handpan. You could take a couple of courses from completely different teachers, maybe a cool groove from Alex Laura, for instance, something cool in Brazilian, and then maybe a cool chord progression from David Kay's composition course or something like this. Learn them individually and then put them together. Yes, you're learning existing rhythms, but then you're practicing that little creative muscle there in the middle by seeing what happens when you combine them. And from there, then you might find, oh, this inspires something a little bit different, or, oh, this chord's really hard to play while still keeping that groove going, so maybe I'll just do this chord instead, and suddenly you're creating something new. So take advantage of all of the resources that you've got and see what you can create from those, and then start to gently start to change one note here, add one note there, take one note away there, simplify a groove, add more complexity to a groove. I think people often think that to be more creative with something you have to add more, but that's not always the case. So there's some really cool complex things already here that you can start to pick small elements from and create your own thing from it.
That's a really good tip. Yeah. Mixing together the things that you can find.
Yeah, I mean, it's all there, and that's all it is, really.
That's what we do. We do it maybe a little bit faster inside of our brains. Yeah. But that's all inside the steps are.
Yeah, that's all it is. And we at this point have a bank of chord progressions that we often use. And we have a bank of rhythms that we often use that we're able to pull from memory quite quickly at this point, which you eventually will have. It's not like we're making them up on the spot every single time. Sometimes it's new and fresh, but we probably think it's new and fresh, but we've done it before.
Yeah, we accidentally heard it on the way into the studio. We were like, oh yeah, I just thought of this idea, but actually...
Yeah, like the other day we recorded a really cool song and it was just Toto.
Well, it was a bit of it.
It was a bit
of Toto Africa.
They do say, nothing's new, so don't be afraid to borrow elements and start to practice that creativity by putting things together. And through that, you will find your own voice eventually.
Yeah. Keep it simple.
Keep it simple. Kiss. Keep it simple. All right, Craig, a similar question. I'm playing Rav for a year now. I feel I struggle to be able to just play. Unless I'm repeating grooves I learned, I have a hard time making music on these instruments. Learning guitar. I think a similar kind of thing. And Craig also wants to be able to just jam.
Do you know what? I would say to that, when I want to just jam, so often I will practice like a technique that I'm trying to work on, and then I'll kind of practice it in like a really focused way where I'm trying to, suppose I'm doing double strokes, I'm really trying to get them sounding good. But then when I want to just play, I will find some kind of rhythm that I can play along with. So David Cookerman's got loads in the rhythm library, or there are some just on YouTube or whatever, but some kind of loop because that like informs your playing. It comes from like a rock beat, like boom, boom, cha, boom, boom, boom. I'm gonna play in a really different way than some like a ballady, like a Middle Eastern groove, or something in an odd time sync. Whatever it is, whatever is your level of like challenge and excitement, find a groove and just play with that groove, because it's taken those kinds of rhythm questions away from you. Because then if the groove's going dum, 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 I can play one note, it's gonna sound really good. Whereas if Amy isn't doing that, then I'm just sitting here going it's still cool, right? It's fine, but it adds something. So yeah, again, I guess it's similar to the thing I said for the last answer, but take something away from your decision making, keep that beat going, and that's going to keep you playing forwards in time. If you do something that you really like, do it again a bunch of times, and that's really fun, and then flow through. Sometimes I'll record those ideas and then turn that into a piece I want to work on. But in terms of just jamming and flowing, for me, if I don't have to worry about staying in time or where the beats are, I can find myself, I'm open to play a lot more creatively sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's exactly how I would answer that. And as well, at the risk of getting a little bit more loopy, I think even just having, if there is for me, if I just play first thing in the morning when I haven't had time to think and judge myself, that's the moment where I can start jamming and not worry about whether it's music that I'm making.
So true.
Later in the day, I'm in brain mode, and if I do anything, I'm like, that's rubbish. But earlier on, and this just works for me, I don't know if it works for other people, it might, I can literally just go and just kind of experiment, and sometimes good stuff kind of comes out. So I think having that freedom to kind of have the two modes of, I am studying and learning how to play handpan, I am trying to do a nice jam, and also I'm just gonna play something and just completely throw it all out, not worry about any of it, and just let yourself make sounds and noises. Sometimes just that ability to let go a little bit and play something quote unquote bad, whatever that means, it's just nice, it's fun sometimes, I think. And from there, then you can have those practices, find those things to jam along with, start to, get the brain engaged a bit more, and try to create something a bit more musical, whatever that means, But just having the freedom to get all of that out and to just enjoy it, I think is really important.
I think that's such a good point. Like, I feel like with the handpan, especially because we're normally adult beginners, we kind of have this like brain thought of what we should be doing all the time. Like, whereas kids, they're just like, whatever.
They just experiment.
And they're coming up with all these great ideas, but they don't need to be, they don't have that self-judgment of it, because they're just enjoying the sound making, the way babies babble and walk around just for the fun of it. Whereas we're like, I've got to walk into the kitchen now. I've got to
use my legs.
Whereas babies are just like, so finding that like childlike joy of just exploration and understanding what you're trying to do. Like, that's why I'm so passionate. I'm always harping on about covers, like playing other people's music, because it can be a lot to try and think of new ideas and play them technically correctly and explore your like harmony or brain, all of those things at the same time. All on the spot, under a spotlight,
It's a lot.
So working out sometimes what you're trying to do, exploring the textures of the instrument versus trying to write some new music and channel how you're feeling. If you don't have all of the technical skills to share exactly how you're feeling in that moment, it can be super frustrating. So sometimes playing things that other people have done is a really great starting point as well. It's just, deciding what you want to do in that moment with the handpan, and then seeing how you do it.
And then when you're ready, just take the advice from the previous question that we just answered, start to collect some of those ideas and start to put them together and to create your own new thing out of those existing things. And then suddenly you're jamming.
You're
jamming, baby. All right, how are we doing for time?
Ooh,
20 past, maybe. One more.
Okay, with ghost notes, Ferris says, are they meant to be 100% silent, or are you meant to hear something, e.g. a faint percussive tap? One of those annoying answers. Sometimes. I just think of ghost notes as like the hi-hat on a drum kit. So like it can be that you want to hear like like that's going to bring a very different feeling to like think of like a big stadium. I can feel it. So yeah, the answer sometimes maybe, but sometimes not.
Sometimes maybe, sometimes not. For me, I think ghost notes, they have many different goals. Sometimes the purpose of a ghost note is to just keep you, kind of keep your pedals turning on your bicycle, you know, keep you in time, keep you going. And then eventually, once you have that awareness of that time, you can even take those ghost notes away and feel that space and just leave that empty space, and then you can do other stuff. Or you keep those ghost notes and utilize them how you want to. You either keep them quiet. So here I'm using them as like stabilizers on a bike. But because I've got that constant pattern going, I can now play around with the dynamic. I can move my fingers from the shoulder to the interstitial, to the tone field, to the ding. I can do whatever I want, and I'm not changing anything. I'm just keeping that hand-to-hand pattern. That's why we have ghost notes, right? Ooh, dynamics. I can decide. Oops, I changed the groove. But you see what I mean? So the way that I like to use them is to sometimes hear them within what I'm playing and to add a little bit of diversity to a simple rhythm. You know, if I'm playing the same rhythm throughout something, or if I'm jamming with someone or whatever, just to keep it interesting for myself or for the listener or whatever, whoever you're playing for, to just every now and then add a little bit of glitter, a little bit of something, you know, a little bit of seasoning. Yeah, I think those are kind of the two main purposes of ghost notes, if you like, in my brain.
I'm with you.
Cool.
Yeah, I think if there's one sort of through thread from some of the stuff we were talking about, I guess it's about intentionality. So having an idea in your head when you play it, 90% of the time what I actually play is not the idea in my head, but that's what I'm aiming for. That's what you should be aiming for. So it doesn't have to be the same. It might be a joyful surprise, but if you have a thought in your brain as how the music is going to sound really good, at least you know what you're working towards, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Cool. Nice. Thank you all so much for
asking Amy and Rosie.
for not asking us, but getting answered anyway.
Yeah.
We're going to leave it there for now, but in future episodes, we would love to hear directly from you and to answer some questions from, you know, the recent month. I'm excited to see where we go from here.
Yeah, it's so great to hear the questions that you have. We both teach online, we both have courses there, but we don't always get that feedback from the things that we put out. So hearing the questions that you're wondering, it's really fun to answer them. So keep them coming.
Keep them coming. And we'll see you next month, I guess, for the official first episode. With your actual questions that you actually knew were going to get.
Surprise! Surprise knowledge!
Thank you all for tuning in.
Bye!
We'll see you soon.